Caroma. I think it, pardon me for the pause. My server just, or my internet just clicked, so I think I'm okay. Council Vice President Tom Hucker and Daniel Caroma, who is the Silver Spring representative for Business Connect for Montgomery County. And they're going to walk us through some of the challenge or some of the programs that Montgomery County has available or will soon have available for businesses here who are suffering as a result of COVID-19. I hope everybody is well. I hope everybody is staying safe. And I would ask you that we will let Tom and Daniel go through the presentation first. And then if you would look for the chat function, which is at the bottom of your screen, you should see a little bubble that says that whites a chat underneath it. And that's how we'll take questions so that we can keep the noise under control and get all of your questions answered this morning. So I'm going to share my screen and turn it over to Tom in just a few minutes, or just as soon as I can do that. Okay, Tom. Can everybody see my screen? Okay. Tom, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks so much for holding this, Jane and Courtney. It's great to be with you, although I wish we were under better circumstances. As Jane said, I'm Tom Hucker. I'm the Vice President of Montgomery County Council, but more importantly for this group, I'm the representative for the Silver Spring District on the County Council as well. And we have Daniel Caroma with us. Daniel, do you want to explain your role with the County Executive's Office and the Business Solutions Group?
Absolutely. Good morning, everyone, and I hope everyone is being safe. And thank you, Jane and Councilmember Hucker, for organizing this. I'm a business liaison officer as part of the County Executive's Office, the Business Solutions Group. And my work in the office is to ensure that we're able to inform all the businesses in the county of, especially in this moment, what are the resources that are available, but specifically to this meeting in terms of what is it that businesses and nonprofits needs to prepare in order to apply for the grant that was passed by the County Council.
Okay, thanks, Daniel. So, I mean, first, I think it's appropriate to just say I really wish, as we all do, that we weren't dealing with this crisis. It's great to have Jane and the Silver Spring Chamber available to provide these kind of services and to partner with us to mitigate the effects of it. It's an incredibly challenging time. You've probably been following the news as much as I have, but to have 6 million unemployment claims when the country's never had even 1 million before, this is over 10 times more than the country's ever had before. We are seeing businesses that have been successful for decades shutting down, at least temporarily. And we're all scrambling to come up with any kind of programs we can to mitigate the effects of this, to help businesses keep their lights on in the short term, and any businesses that have had to close to reopen as quickly as possible. I've been in constant contact with business owners in our area and around the county, as I know Jane has and Daniel have as well. 90% of our businesses in Montgomery County have 50 employees or less, making small businesses the backbone of the Montgomery County economy. It's not the same all over the country, but it's very much the rule in Montgomery County. And I spent all weekend talking to more business owners and lenders and government officials about how to implement the programs we have stood up already and what else we need to do. I should also, I think I failed to mention my Chief of Staff, Dave Kuhns, is on here as well. And I think my Deputy Chief of Staff, Julio Murillo, who is our liaison to the business community and our lead on economic development. So they're good resources for you, even when I'm stuck in a hearing. That's slide one. Jane, can I get slide two?
Okay, I think so. Hang on. Well, there we go. There you go.
Wonderful, thank you. So last Tuesday, my colleagues and I passed an entire package to respond to COVID-19. It begins with, and there you can see the infographic there, $10 million to help our hospitals meet the urgent healthcare needs of residents. We need more hospital beds We about 600 in Montgomery County, and we're hoping to reopen Washington Adventist in our area, which will be a little bit short of 200 of those needed beds. We also passed, and there's some additional funds in there, not just for the beds, but personal protective equipment and other things that our frontline healthcare providers need. We also approved $260,000 for the Manna Food Center for all our families that are experiencing food insecurity right now. And Manna's been very successful countywide. And I think many of you know they recently opened a food pantry in our area in East County near the Target there, and have been a real resource to Silver Spring in particular. We also approved $250,000 for hotel and motel rooms. Our hotels, as you know, have been hit really hard through this crisis, and our hospitals are working overtime. So it's a little bit of a win-win situation to purchase a bunch of hotel rooms for our medical staff to stay in, so they can get the rest they need, and so they don't have to necessarily drive all the way home, but they can stay in a local hotel. The main thing I think this group is going to be concerned about is the $20 million in emergency grants that that we approve for local businesses and nonprofits. We're going to spend most of this presentation talking about the details of that, but that was what we spent most of our time on, and I think provides most of the immediate relief for hopefully folks on this call. Hopefully it'll end up in your hands. We also, I wanted to tell you, obviously the county resources are very, very limited. And we, when you're dealing with a global pandemic, we really need more vigorous leadership and financial support from the federal government and from the state government. We have some resources available later on this week, I'll tell you about, so you can find out more about the federal and the state programs. Jane hosted a great webinar Friday morning with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, so you could find out, through which many of us found out about the federal programs. And I wanted to let you know later on today, my office is sending to the governor a letter signed by all the council members that we spearheaded, supporting Comptroller Francho's request to open up $500 million from the rainy day fund of the state to distribute to Maryland small business as well. So we're not counting on just our public health emergency grant program at the county level to provide all the support that you need. We know it's much larger than that, and we're hoping the state rides to the rescue by opening up the rainy day fund, which I don't know that we're going to get much of more of a rainy day than we're in right now. And then we think of the public health emergency grant program that we passed on Tuesday as really the first installment. I'm also already working with Councilwoman Navarro for a special appropriation of hopefully $5 million. My colleagues, of course, haven't passed it yet, for additional funding for retail and restaurant businesses. We also, before I get to the details of the grant program, I want to tell you it's at the county level, several other things we've done to try to mitigate the effects of this recession, and solicit your feedback later on in this webinar, because we don't at all think we have all the answers, and I think we're just beginning all the things that we need to do to support our local small businesses. But among the things we've done is we pushed for the fast tracking of the permits for our restaurants to sell alcohol, including cocktails, mixed drinks with a lid on them. We lobbied the liquor board to allow the carry-out sales of alcohol and mixed beverages as well, and that's been a little bit of a lifeline for the retail, for the restaurant businesses and our bars that have been hit so hard, particularly by this recession because of the need for social distancing. I've also worked with the county executive to suspend the parking enforcement in front of restaurants and bars all across the county. We're encouraging people to use delivery and to use carryout. So the last thing we want to be doing is issuing tickets to their customers when they're picking up their dinner. And we don't want to be issuing tickets to our restaurant owners when they're loading up the car to send out their deliveries. So we put a stop to that, working with the county executive. We also bagged the meters on Gateway Circle right at Colesville in Georgia, and have worked with the police and the parking district of Silver Spring to open up Ellsworth Drive for delivery as well. And you've probably noticed a lot of these changes. If you need additional assistance outside the financial programs that we're going to talk about in a minute, please stay in touch with us. My staff and I will do everything we can to help, and I know that's true of Daniel as well. So back to Bill 1620, the legislation that set up the Public Health Emergency Grant Program. The fund we established is $20 million to help businesses with their immediate expenses, to pay rent, to pay staff, to pay operational expenses like utilities. There is a maximum cap. Oh, I'm sorry, Jane. We should jump ahead to slide 3, where the details are. I think I was supposed to mention, I'm sorry, we also passed $5 million in emergency financial assistance for our families that need it the most. So in terms of the grant eligibility for the Public Health Emergency Grant Program, number 1, principal place of business has to be in Montgomery County. 2, the business employs 100 or fewer full-time equivalent employees, and you have to demonstrate financial loss caused by the public health emergency. And Daniel will be able to talk about how you document that. We've been trying to keep it as simple as possible, and it's still in the works. We haven't released the grant application and the eligibility criteria in detail yet, the regulations, but I've been encouraging the county exec's office and the county chief administrative officer to keep the form as simple as possible and to keep the documentation as simple as possible. One great piece of advice that I got from a prominent lender in our area was, don't require anything that people haven't already had to do when they file their taxes or to normally prepare their taxes. The last thing we need people to do is track down an accountant, charge the accountant with doing some additional work, pay the accountant to do some additional work. We want to just get these applications out the door and keep it as simple as possible. I also just wanted to mention the unique nature. There's been a lot written about this recession by economists. The last recession hit manufacturing and trade and other things hard. This recession, the COVID recession, is going to be known as the retail and restaurant recession because of the need for social distancing uniquely hits those industries. Retail was already struggling for lots of reasons. Restaurants are especially hard hit now. I was able to push my colleagues to reserve $5 million of the $20 million for restaurants and retail, and hopefully we'll be able to go above that because that's such a integral part of the Silver Spring economy in particular. So that gets us through slide 3. Let me turn it over to Daniel to talk about the eligibility and the application advice and the next steps if you're interested in applying for the grants. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Vice President Hucker. And again, as you stated, the goal is to ensure that we're not requiring what businesses and nonprofits already have, and also ensuring that the application is simple. So talking about requirements, Jen, can you go to the next slide, please?
Yes. Just a second, I'm getting there. There you go.
Okay, so let me talk about, first of all, the business entity types that qualify, because I know for state and federal programs there's some entities that are not eligible. So if you are a sole proprietor, you are eligible. If you're a nonprofit, 501c3, you are eligible. So partnership, corporation, LLCs, all those entity types are eligible. And so also you must register with the state and be in good standing, because that's one of the things we will check. And so businesses and nonprofit don't have to go in and download or pay for that a status of good standing. We will check it and we will be able to do all that work in the back end. And then also talking about the application itself, the goal is that we want to make sure that we can, especially if you filed your taxes, which we encourage every business and nonprofits to do. So nonprofits is $990, businesses your tax returns. We want to see a 2-year tax return. That would help us to be able to not only see the revenue loss, So for example, if you haven't filed 2019 taxes yet or 2019 990 yet, then we need a 2017 and 2018 taxes and 990s. For sole proprietor, we need your Schedule C on your tax return. Again, 2017, 2018, if you haven't filed 2019 yet. And once that is done, the goal then is to, well, again, if you have copies of these, make sure you're preparing them now, because these will help you submit a clean application, which will also help us in the back end, not only to get all we need immediately, but also when it comes to the decisioning. So the application, as Council Vice President Hucker said, it's going to be very simple. We are going to have to, for you to indicate in terms of the, at the top of the application, all about your business. And then as Council Vice President said, we'll give you a space where you can indicate in terms of the purposes that you see the use of this grant. And then from there, we'll talk about in terms of other federal programs that are available. We'll give you a checklist, for you to just check if you've applied. That is for informational purposes, because we also realize that many times, some businesses and some nonprofits may not be aware of the state or the federal programs that are available. So that is for informational purposes. And we want to ensure that, you just check those boxes that you've applied for. If you haven't applied for any, then that's fine. And then coming towards after indicating the tax returns, that's a checkbox as well. And then we will give you a space for you to be able to upload these financials. And so it is critical that you upload the financial. In fact, what we've done with the form is still in the development phase, but we ensure that you cannot submit the application if you do not attach the financials. The reason for that is because this is just based on our experience. If we don't, if we don't give you the opportunity, if we say for you to just submit it and then we have to chase the financials, it's usually, as I say, it's hard for us to get those financials, and it's also slow down the process for us to move this as fast as the council wants us to do. So that being said, once the application is submitted, and we have a team that has already been assembled to ensure that all the paperwork will be looked at securely, and all information you submitted in a secure portal, so you don't have anything to worry about. And then the decision in part would be made by our team, the finance group within our team, and then you'll hear back from them very quickly. So if you hear me, most of what I've said, most of this and all of it actually on the application side will be online. And so therefore, we encourage everyone to, we know that they're hard to reach community, and we're working to reach those minority small businesses or ethnic nonprofits to ensure that they're also aware of the program. And in fact, the council and Council Vice President Hucker, they emphasize that we developed a plan, which we have developed to reach, not only working with our chambers, but also working with various groups to reach the hard to reach small businesses and nonprofits. But that being said, as I say, once everything is submitted, another thing we're working on right now is for some businesses and nonprofit that may have difficulties filling out the form. We have some business resource partners who are willing right now to work with some of the businesses or nonprofits to fill out the form. So again, that is still in the works. We haven't finalized the number yet, but I can announce, in this group that we do have, for those who may need help filling out their application, we're going to work with some of our business resource partners through the phone, not a face-to-face conversation, but through the phone. They'll be able to guide the business owner or the nonprofit, ED, to fill out the application. So with that being said, I'm going to pause and turn it back to Jane and Council Vice President Hucker for any questions.
Do we have another slide?
Yeah,
Yes,
go
we
ahead.
do.
There are a couple more slides, Jane. I think, do we want to pause for questions at this point before we talk a little bit about the Maryland programs, the state programs?
Okay, I think that this was, this was what maybe Daniel went through in terms of signing up. So let's go back and I'll leave the slide up, but I'm going to go back and I'll tell you some of the questions that we've gotten so far. Question is, what date is the employee count? As of what date? Is that as of the beginning, as of now, as of when?
So the regs are being developed, and what we're looking at is, as the legislation, we're following the legislation. The legislation says 100 or fewer. So if they're employed, and also in terms of the parameters we're looking at is, from the time the governor issued the state of, the state of emergency. So if you have an employee who was working for you at that time when the governor issued the state of emergency, then that employee would, would be able to be count as your employee.
Okay. Another employee question. We're a home care company, have fewer than 100 full-time office employees. However, we employ more than 300 caregivers that are PRN. Would we qualify? And I guess, I'm not sure how you guys are going to figure out how you're going to count people who are more, who are the part-time. Is that a full-time equivalent, or how does that work?
It's 100 full-time equivalent.
Okay. If your business is registered in another state, but you're licensed to do business in Maryland, are you still eligible?
So we're looking at your principal place of business, as Council Vice President Hucker said, has to be in Montgomery County. However, if you have 50% of your employees of your gross revenues are from the county, in Montgomery County, you will be eligible based on those criteria.
My apologies if I sound a robo voice again. I'm not sure what's causing it, but I'll try to speak as clearly as I can. Asking for 2 years of tax returns will prevent new businesses from applying for the grant. And the federal grant is not so restrictive. Is there any consideration for newer businesses?
Yes, there is. So we're also looking for, if you have any interims, like interim financial statements, you can also submit that as well.
Okay. And I think we have some more questions on these part-time employees that work on call as 40 hours a week or more. So I think that's something that maybe we can get those questions answered individually, Daniel, afterwards. So the business already has applied for the state, and they apply for the Montgomery County program.
They can and they should, I think, is the answer. We wrote into the law, though, if they cannot expect reimbursement from the county for anything that's already been reimbursed by the state or the feds, understandably, because we certainly want our limited county funds to stretch out as far as possible. And I just to emphasize something Daniel said, the emergency regulations have yet to be finalized by the executive branch. So this is part of the process to gather feedback from business owners and applicants. But I know, having spoken to Andrew Klein a lot over the weekend and to the county executive, they want to stretch our program as far as possible to really target it, to try to fill the gaps that exist in the federal and the state program, and to make sure it's going to small businesses where there's the greatest need. So that's sort of informing the regulations, but the regulations haven't been finalized yet.
Will the online application be available in a printable version to facilitate tasking various individuals to help assemble the needed information?
So our goal is that we will have a PDF version we're working on the top 6 language that are spoken here in Montgomery County. And so the application itself can be printed. However, what we are encouraging is that everybody should go online and submit the form online, because that's the fastest way to get it to us. Many of you know we don't have access to many of our county buildings right now. So if you mail something, first of all, it's going to take a long time for us to get it. And most likely, if you mail it to one of our offices, we may not even get it.
I think what they're talking about, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think what they're talking about is, can you print it out and then you'd upload it again, just to facilitate getting other people to help you fill it out?
Yes, you can do that.
Okay.
what we're encouraging is that if someone is having difficulties filling out the application online, that's the reason why right now we have 3 business resource partners who have agreed to help businesses and nonprofits fill out the application online.
Mm-hmm.
A question about how the county determines financial hardship. This is coming from a nonprofit, so maybe if you can answer that in a little bit different way as opposed to the tax returns.
So what we're seeing across the board is a 25% decline, in revenues. And again, that may not be what the final regs be, but again, I'm just saying across the board, when we look at the local programs that are available nationwide, many of them are looking for 25% decline in revenues.
Okay.
And
several questions about companies that have multiple locations through Maryland, but 2 locations or a couple of locations in Montgomery County. Are they eligible?
So what we're looking at right now is that if 50% of the total business numbers of employees are in the county, or over 50% of the business gross sales, then you'll be eligible. I think Councilmember Hucker, I should let you speak. Council Vice President, I should let you speak first, and then I would then add anything you.
No, I think that's the right answer. That's not specified in the legislation, so I think that's going to be more handled by the regulation. And Daniel's got it right. I didn't want to miss the point though. I wanted to jump in earlier. I added an amendment to the bill to require the county executive to do outreach to businesses and also to provide technical assistance for businesses that need help filling out the forms and finding out about the program. And Daniel mentioned they have 3 different partners that have been working with our small businesses now and in past programs like the Impact Assistance Fund in Silver Spring and the Small Business Assistance Program in Wheaton to help people access the applications and the guidelines and fill out the forms. So if you need any help with that, maybe this group isn't in as much need for that if you're on a webinar like this, but a lot of our small businesses in Silver Spring certainly could use that help.
FTEs based on 30 hours a week or 40 hours a week?
Well, so FTE will be 40 hours a week. Again, the regs are being developed, but we're going strictly by the regulation and by the legislation.
Okay. I think we might have answered this question. How are we going to coordinate these with grants from the state?
People can apply to both. They just can't expect to be reimbursed quite by both entities for the same expense.
There are a lot of questions asking about when the form of the application will be ready, and we'll talk about that and in terms of how to notify people once it is available and ready online. Lots of questions about that. One issue that someone brought up for nonprofits is that they may not see any losses until future months once they get back and running. Will there be a way to help them in the future?
I think this program, is significant is a significant expense for the county, but we don't expect it to do everything. It'll probably run out. As I mentioned, I've been working with Councilwoman Navarro for a second phase of it, aimed at retail and restaurants. And I think all of us on the council want to continue to do what we can to get people through this. So I think even after this runs out, we'll probably have a whole nother program in place. We also, anyway, I think that's the answer. That's why we focused on revenue and not profit as in past programs, so we could include the nonprofits.
And Jane, I just want to pop in and say that the best place to get immediate notification that the application is posted is Tom's form at tomhucker.com/business.
Thank you. For businesses that are also applying for the PPE program, which is payroll, rent, health insurance premiums, et cetera, should we not include those items in the application when we're requesting financial relief?
So what we're looking for is just proof that you've applied for. It could be the state or the federal, the program, the PPE program. Excuse me. Hold on. We're talking about PPE, like personal protective equipment.
No. PPE, the federal program, Paycheck Protection Program.
That's
PPP.
the PPP. Okay.
PPP.
Okay, yeah, because so you just need to indicate that you've applied, and as I said, we're providing check boxes for all the programs that you've applied for, and you just need to maybe send us an email of acknowledging your application to those programs, or if like we know that some of the state programs are oversubscribed already. If you have any type of declaration, email or any type of print screen from when you applied, if you can submit that, that will be a proof that you've applied for those programs, and you were not able to get anything from it.
Just to confirm, there's a question whether the qualification is by the number of employees or in Montgomery County or the sales in Montgomery County. And I think that maybe we do need to clarify that a little bit. It's 100 or fewer employees in Montgomery County, but it's also the sales consideration based on the size of your company. So more than 50% of your sales also have to be in Montgomery County. Is that correct?
So the first part is part of the regulation. Part of the regs that we're looking at right now is, let me just go there real quick. It's an or. It's not an and. So 50% of the employees are in the county. Are in the county, or 50% of gross business sales.
The teleworking grant, we have a question about that. Will the 2,500 telework grant have a separate application form and process?
No, what we're looking right now at, as the regs are being developed, is to integrate that as part of the total award that will go to the business or the nonprofit.
Okay. We have another question about a nonprofit. What about a division of a nonprofit entity that is located in Montgomery County? All of its activities occur in the county. All of its revenue is spent on programs in the county, but it is a division of a nonprofit that's headquartered outside of Maryland.
That's a tough question. Again, I can only go back to what we're looking at right now, which is, if the nonprofits account, let's say, if the location in the county accounts for 50% of the total employees, then yes, they're eligible. Or in this case, it's a nonprofit, so I wouldn't say sell. But yeah, if 50% of if 50% is based here in the county, yes, they are.
I'm sure that there are going to be more questions, but if we want to pick up on the next slide, some of the applications, we can go forward. Then I can take more questions as they come in.
Terrific. Are you going to slide 6? I think it is, Jane. Is that right?
Do you want slide number 5 or slide number 6?
So slide number 5, I can only talk about the CVRS system. And again, this will be after the after the award, in the award email that will go out to the applicant, business or nonprofit. We will indicate and we'll send you a link where you will need to register in our central vendor registration system. That would enable the county to transmit these funds to you electronically. Council Vice President Hucker can take over there.
Again, there's been a lot of concern about how quickly people will learn about the program when it goes online, and the easiest way to get an immediate notification is we have a web form. It's just at tomhucker.com/business. You can put your contact info there, and we'll get you an email, and we'll be following up with phone calls to make sure everybody knows all at the same time when it's launched on the county website. The application again will be relatively short and simple. If you're accepted, you'll get an offer letter from the Department of Finance, which you'll sign and return, and then register your business as a vendor on our central vendor registration system. I think we can go to slide 6. I think that's plenty on the county program. I can't see the number. There's resources here about a lot of links to information about the federal programs that are out there. And I think we can, Jane sponsored one webinar, and there's going to be more available I'll talk about in just a second to connect you to those federal resources. Can we go to the next one, Jane? Right. Okay. And there's lots of links for the state resources as well. I want to encourage anybody who hasn't yet applied for the state assistance to do so as soon as possible. There's been a lot of interest in those. It's very competitive, and I hope the state will expand that program. And I hope they'll dip into the rainy day fund. As I mentioned, we'll be advocating for that later on today with a letter from the county council and the county executive that I've organized. The Department of Commerce, the Maryland Department of Commerce, has 3 key programs that are aimed at small businesses due to COVID-19. One is the Small Business Emergency Relief Loan Fund, the $75 million fund for for-profit businesses only, but they offer no interest and principal payments for the first 12 months, and then it converts to a 36-month term loan of principal and interest payments at just a 2% interest rates after the first 12 months. The other one people have been very interested in is the Small Business Emergency Relief Grant Fund. Understandably, people are excited about grants from the state. It's a $50 million program. Unfortunately, they capped those only at $10,000, which is not to exceed 3 months of a business's cash operating expenses in the first quarter of 2020. And again, I'm glad it's there. I'm glad the state stepped up quickly, and I really hope they expand it. We'll be urging them to do that. And the third one is the Emergency Relief Manufacturing Fund. This is a smaller fund, $5 million, aimed at our Maryland manufacturers to urge them to incentivize them to make personal protective equipment that is greatly needed by our hospitals and frontline healthcare workers, nursing homes, and elsewhere all across the county. You know, you're probably not absorbing all the details of this right now. I wanted to invite everybody to a webinar that I've scheduled with the Maryland Commerce Secretary, Kelly Schulz, this Thursday, April 9th at 3 p.m. You can sign up for that at tomhucker.com/commerce. And certainly please don't wait for the webinar to apply for state assistance. Daniel and I and my staff are available to help you apply for the state assistance as well, but you can speak to the Commerce Secretary directly Thursday at 3, which is a great resource. And we'll also have the President and CEO of the Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation, Ben Wu, on that webinar as well. And then finally, slide 8, I think, Jane?
Okay. Yep.
But my numbers are off.
Okay, there we go.
I know you all have full lives outside your role as business owners, so I just wanted to let people know to stay in touch with me and my staff. Phone numbers are there, the email address is there, and Daniel as well. There's the upcoming webinar. Also, we hosted a town hall, sort of a general online town hall last Monday, and thousands of people participated in it over the phone or over Facebook Live and live video platforms. We had our police commander, we had leaders of our school system, the mayor of Tacoma Park, and others to answer a whole lot of questions. It was so popular, we're going to start doing this every Monday night at 7. So I have another one scheduled this tonight at 7. We're going to have an update with public safety officials on how they're responding to the county's crisis. And then we'll have leaders of the school system to debrief on the first week. If you have kids in the school system, you're well aware of this. We tried to get 130,000 students in Montgomery County into a distance learning program last week. It's been largely successful. It hasn't been without bugs. I have 2 little kids getting their online learning right now. simultaneously here, and we'll be hearing from the school system tonight about some additional resources and how that has all gone. I also finally just have a series of other events. There's 5 this week we're holding aimed at businesses, and more specific webinars we're holding for tenants, for vulnerable residents and their caretakers, and more to connect them to our HHS leadership. So for the most, and we're very much open to suggestions. We're figuring out the ideal response in real time. So whatever suggestions you have, please pass on to us. But you can follow any more webinars and public education that we put together and programs that the county is putting together at tomhucker.com/coronavirus, or you can just send an email so we can add you to the newsletter list. With that, I'll stop and see what else Jane has.
Okay, well, and we have a couple more webinars, at least one more scheduled yet this week, and we're going to be scheduling others. We have one at 1 o'clock this afternoon that will look at the PPP programs, look at the federal programs, so you can get more information about that. It's kind of a continuation of the one that we did on Friday, but that's at 1 o'clock. It is almost sold out in terms of the numbers that we can accommodate, but the recording of our Friday webinar and a recording of this one today and the 1 o'clock this afternoon will all be available on our YouTube page. And for everyone who registered for this event, we will provide both a copy of the slides that you're seeing on your screen today, and then a link to the recording of the webinars. So you'll be able to get this information and also get the answers to the questions. The one thing, Tom, that I will add, the one comment that we just got, which kind of speaks to maybe helping try to find some additional resources or try to find some additional help, is there are companies, we've heard from a number of companies, that while they may not be seeing a decline in revenues right now, they've lost clients going forward, and they're going to have a problem even going forward after that once it hits. So I think that, that's, I think, a little bit of an incentive for us to try to figure out new ways, both at the state, county, and federal level, to continue helping people, because it's not going to be over after this next few months.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think all of us on the county council and the county exec too are committed to putting resources and programs in place to continue. Nobody knows if this is going to last 6 months or a year, or it's going to be an annual event. We're gonna continue to have to deal with. We want to continue to be responsive, and at the same time, since the county has limited resources, we want to target our resources to the gaps. So we're also at the same time tracking the programs that are being stood up at the state level. This is just phase 1 for the state. We hope they do more. And at the federal level, everybody's talking about what Congress, is already working on, so that hopefully they'll put together the resources we need, and we'll be able to keep the county in a nimble position to fill the gaps.
Okay. I think there have been a few questions that have come in, but we've answered some of them, and they will be answered in both the videotape or the audio tape that we're going to be sending out. So unless somebody has some new questions, Tom, unless you have any closing remarks, or Daniel, I want to thank everybody. Do you guys have anything to close with?
I just want to thank you, Jane and Courtney, for setting this up. I mean, we're all under a lot of stress. These are really unusual times we're living in, and unprecedented, challenges. It's a recession like we haven't seen before, and a public health emergency like we haven't seen. And it's great to have organizations like the Greater Silver Spring Chamber to put together resources like this to help people access the help they need. And I know, not just this one, but the upcoming webinars are going to be a great service to people. So it's great to have partners like you. Thank you.
Right. Well, and we thank you for your partnership. We are in unprecedented times, and the Chamber is just trying to help our businesses get through this and thrive and come out on the other end, so we can all be successful and our county can still be successful. So again, I thank everyone for taking the time to come on the webinar. Tom, I thank you, and I thank Daniel, you too as well, for taking the time. You've been very accessible and wonderful to work with throughout all of us trying to get through this. So everybody, please stay safe and stay well, and look to gsscc.org for more information about upcoming webinars and upcoming information. And we also have a web page that we try to keep up to date, as up to date as possible, because even though this changes hourly, with the latest details on what kind of programs you can access both at the federal, state, and now the county local level, to help your business. So thank you again, everybody, and keep an eye out and stay safe.
You too. Thanks, Jane. Thanks, Daniel. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Courtney.